Welcome to The Explainer. So, what if I told you that in 2026, the world is, well, it's kind of done with just making big promises? Today, we're decoding the global agenda to show you why this year is all about one thing: actually getting stuff done.
To really understand what's going on, you have to look past the usual headlines. And that's exactly what we've done. We've gone deep into the agendas of the world's most important conferences. The places where the future is really being decided. From global politics to artificial intelligence, we're mapping out the key conversations that are going to define this year.
And what we've found is this really powerful common thread. After years of big ideas and even bigger disruptions, 2026 isn't about dreaming up new plans. Nope, it's about execution. It's about the hard, messy work of making things happen in three really key areas: geopolitics, technology, and of course, global finance.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at how global power is being reshuffled. Then, we're diving into the AI revolution and why it's all about infrastructure now. After that, we're going to follow the money and the big ideas over to the Asia-Pacific. Then, we'll get into the biggest theme of all, that challenge of implementation. And, to wrap it all up, we'll give you a clear strategic outlook for the year. Let's jump in.
First up, the world stage. For years it's felt like these global summits try to solve every problem at once. Well, in 2026, that's over. The major world powers are narrowing their focus and getting back to what they see as their core business.
In this slide, wow, it just lays out the growing divide perfectly. Over on the left, you've got the G20, hosted by the US, and it's all about the economic engine room, deregulation, energy, and tech. But then look to the right. The G7, led by France, is on a totally different track. They're focused on strategic autonomy, which is basically Europe's push to stand on its own 2 feet, plus AI governance and ecology. It's a really stark contrast, and it tells you a lot about the competing visions for our future.
This quote really cuts to the chase of the G20's new focus. The summit, happening December 14th to the 15th, is intentionally pushing issues like climate change to the side so it can get back to its original mission, coordinating on finance. And this isn't just talk. The shift is so real that South Africa, a longtime member, has actually been barred, while Poland got an invite. It's a clear signal of a new alignment, based less on tradition and more on economic and ideological fit.
This whole idea of focusing on core missions, it's not just a geopolitical thing. We're seeing the exact same trend in the world of technology, and especially with AI. The days of just playing with cool new toys are over. 2026 is about actually building the future, not just imagining it.
So, what does that actually mean? It means the big tech conversation in 2026 isn't about the next flashy gadget. It's about the nitty-gritty, roll-up-your-sleeves work of building the world of tomorrow. We're talking about the legal systems, the industrial backbone, the social rules we need to make AI everywhere a safe and productive reality. It's about weaving this technology into the fabric of our lives.
And just look at how global this whole race has become. Seriously, forget the idea that Silicon Valley is the only game in town. The absolute top minds in AI are gathering in Singapore, Rio, Seoul, and Sydney. This isn't just a fun fact, it's a fundamental change in where the future is being built.
And this geographic spread, it's no accident. It points to a much, much larger trend that's really defining 2026. The world's intellectual and financial center of gravity is making a huge, decisive move toward the Asia-Pacific.
Let's start with the money. For the first time in over 30 years, think about that, 30 years, the single most important meeting for global finance, the IMF and World Bank annual meeting, is happening in Bangkok. That's not just a venue change. It's a massive signal that the world's biggest economic conversations are now being hosted by and are centered on Asia.
And it's not just about finance. The center of gravity for tech is moving too. Take Sydney. It managed to snag NeurIPS, which is, and I'm not exaggerating, basically the Super Bowl of AI conferences. This is a huge deal for Australia, and it proves that the most important, groundbreaking ideas in tech are not just happening in California anymore.
And then you've got Seoul, which has locked down another of the cornerstone events for machine learning research. So you're seeing the pattern, right? It's a trifecta. Finance, bleeding-edge AI, and foundational research, all of it is now deeply anchored in the Asia-Pacific.
Okay, so let's just connect the dots here. Bangkok hosts the world's top financial meeting for the first time in 3 decades. Sydney is now home to the world's most prestigious AI conference, and Seoul is a critical hub for machine learning theory. The message is just crystal clear. The epicenters of global finance and game-changing technology are now firmly planted in the Asia-Pacific. This isn't some future prediction. This is the reality of 2026.
So all of this brings us right back to that one core theme for the whole year: implementation. It doesn't matter what field you look at, the central challenge is no longer about what we should do, but how we actually do it. It's all about the difficult, detailed, often unglamorous work of turning big ambitions into real action.
And this focus on how is absolutely everywhere. At the big climate conference, COP31, they're not just making promises, they are laser-focused on creating concrete roadmaps to get things done. In medicine, they're literally breaking down the walls between the research lab and the hospital bed just to make sure new discoveries actually help patients. It's a huge shift from talk to action.
And this isn't just happening in science and tech. Even in a field like political science, the entire focus has changed. They're saying it's no longer enough to just sit back and observe democracy. The new call to action, the new challenge, is to actively figure out how to protect and rebuild it. It's another clear sign that the world is moving from theory to practice.
So, we have covered a ton of ground. But what does this all mean for you? How do you navigate all this? Let's boil it all down into a clear, strategic outlook for the year ahead.
All right, 3 things to keep in mind. First, you have to acknowledge the pivot to the Asia-Pacific. That's where the most important conversations in finance and tech are happening now, period. Second, when it comes to technology, shift your focus from cool experiments to the hard work of building infrastructure. That is where the real action is. And third, learn to look beyond the big, flashy summits. It's in the specialized technical and financial meetings where the real rules that will shape entire industries for years are actually being written.
So, 2026 is all about getting things done. But with all these different conversations happening in different places, each with its own priorities, it leaves us with one big final question. Which one of these conversations is actually going to matter most? As the world fractures into these different spheres of influence, which path are we ultimately going to follow? Answering that, well, that's the question that will define not just this year, but the entire decade to come. Thanks for joining us.